There was a man named Daniel who spent many years believing that life had been unfair to him. He thought about the times he had lost chances, the times he had been turned away, the times people had disappointed him, and the times plans had fallen apart at the last minute. He carried those memories with him like stones in a bag. Every new disappointment added to the weight. Every closed door made him feel smaller. Every delay made him think that something was wrong with his life. He prayed often, but even his prayers became tired. He would ask God for help, ask for peace, ask for direction, ask for protection, and still he often felt like nothing was changing. Daniel had always been a careful man in some ways, but in his heart he was restless. He wanted life to move faster. He wanted answers before the waiting became too heavy. He wanted safety in a clear form, something he could see and understand. He thought protection would look obvious. He thought it would feel like comfort all the time. He thought that if God was truly covering him, then life would not have so many painful moments. Because of that, he often judged his own life too quickly. He looked at the things that hurt and assumed they were proof that he had been left alone. He did not see the full picture. When he was younger, Daniel had prayed a simple prayer almost every night. He asked God to keep him safe. He asked God to guide his steps. He asked God to protect his home, his family, his mind, and his future. Those prayers were not poetic. They were just honest. He said them because something in him knew that life could be dangerous in ways people do not always notice. He had seen enough around him to understand that not every road was safe and not every person had pure intentions. So he prayed. He asked for cover. He asked for mercy. He asked to be kept from harm. As the years passed, he forgot some of those prayers, or at least he thought he did. But God had not forgotten them. One day Daniel sat in a quiet room and looked back over his life with more honesty than before. He had reached a season where he was tired of seeing only disappointment. He wanted to understand why certain things had happened the way they did. He had been passed over for a job that he thought he needed. At the time, he felt crushed. He believed that opportunity had been his door and that it had closed in his face. Later, he learned that the company had gone through severe trouble. The people who were hired faced stress, confusion, and instability. Daniel remembered that moment and felt a strange stillness in his heart. What he had once called failure had actually kept him from a burden he could not see. Another time, he had planned to travel with some friends. He had been excited, but at the last minute something came up and he stayed home. He felt angry then. He thought he had been left behind. Later, he heard that the trip ended in conflict and confusion. Some of the people he knew were hurt by the choices made on that trip. Daniel sat with that memory too. He had called it bad luck when it happened, but now he began to wonder if it had been protection. Maybe the thing that disappointed him had saved him from something harmful. There were many moments like that in his life. He remembered the relationship that never moved forward. At the time, he thought he had lost someone important. He replayed the conversations, the hopes, the plans, and the sadness. He wondered why the connection had not become what he wanted. But later, with more time and wisdom, he saw that the person had carried values and habits that would have hurt him deeply. He had not known it then. He only knew it afterward. What he thought was heartbreak was actually a shield. He remembered the old car that broke down just before a long road trip. He had been frustrated and embarrassed. He had thought the timing was terrible, but later he heard about a serious accident on the route he would have taken. That memory stayed with him. It was one of the first times he felt a deep question rise in him. How many times had he been protected and simply not noticed it? The more he thought about it, the more he realized that his life had been full of invisible mercy. There were arguments he had missed because he was delayed. There were bad decisions he had avoided because something interrupted his plan. There were dangerous places he had not entered because he was held back. There were people he had not trusted because the connection never fully formed. At the time, he thought those things had happened by chance. Now he began to understand that protection is often quiet. It does not always arrive with warning lights. Sometimes it comes as a delay. Sometimes it comes as a closed door. Sometimes it comes as a sudden change of plans. Sometimes it comes as a no that later turns out to be a blessing. This was not easy for Daniel to admit. He had spent so long carrying the pain of what did not happen that he had not respected what did not happen for his good. He had interpreted every delay through the lens of loss. He had not yet learned how to interpret delay through the lens of care. That change took time. It began one evening when he sat with his mother. She was an older woman now, steady and quiet, with a deep faith that had carried her through many seasons. She had never been loud about God, but her life carried a kind of peace Daniel had not always understood. She looked at him after hearing him speak about his disappointments, and she reminded him of something simple. She reminded him that a loving God does not only protect by giving. Sometimes he protects by denying. Sometimes he protects by closing. Sometimes he protects by redirecting. Sometimes he protects by making a road harder, so a person will not enter a place that would destroy them. Daniel listened, but he still struggled to fully believe it. He wanted proof, not only wisdom. He wanted something stronger than theory. He wanted his heart to feel what his mind was beginning to understand. That proof came over time. He started hearing from people whose lives had gone in the directions he once wanted for himself. At first, he compared. He thought they were ahead of him. He thought they had what he lacked. Then he listened more closely to their stories. One man had taken a job Daniel once wanted, only to find himself trapped in a toxic workplace that broke his confidence. Another person had entered a relationship Daniel had once envied, only to go through deep pain and regret. Another friend had taken a fast path to money and later lost both peace and stability. Daniel was not happy about their suffering, but he began to see that he had been protected from things he once called missed blessings. That realization changed him slowly. He stopped seeing his life only through what he had not received. He began to look for the hand of God in what never reached him. That was a different kind of faith. It was not only faith for the open door. It was faith for the closed one. It was not only faith for the answered prayer. It was faith for the answer that came as a no. It was not only faith for the path taken. It was faith for the path blocked. Daniel began to notice how much peace came into his heart when he thanked God for protection he had not recognized before. He started saying thank you for delays. He started saying thank you for redirections. He started saying thank you for missed opportunities that were really hidden rescues. He started thanking God for roads that never opened because they were not safe for him. That gratitude softened him. It made him less bitter. It made him more aware. It made him more humble. He had lived too long as if every closed door was proof of rejection. Now he saw that some doors stay closed because God is merciful. Some paths are hidden because they are not meant for your survival. Some situations feel disappointing because the danger is invisible to the human eye. He understood that a loving God may save a person by stopping them before the harm becomes visible. That kind of protection is easy to miss in the moment because people often only recognize rescue after they have seen the danger they avoided. There was one particular season that made this even clearer. Daniel had been considering a business partnership with a man he trusted only partly. The offer seemed promising. The money looked good. The future looked exciting. Everyone around him told him it was a good opportunity. He was close to saying yes. He almost did, but something unsettled him inside. He could not explain it fully. It was not fear exactly. It was a quiet restraint, a gentle warning. He did not understand it, so he delayed. He told the man he needed more time. The man became impatient and eventually moved on. At first, Daniel felt embarrassed. He thought he had missed a major chance. For weeks he replayed the situation and blamed himself. He thought he had been too cautious. He thought he had let fear take away a blessing. But then he heard news about that same man. The partnership had gone badly. There had been dishonesty and confusion. People had lost money. Trust had broken. Daniel felt a deep peace then. He understood that the uneasy feeling he had ignored was not weakness. It was protection. The thing he thought had delayed his success had actually saved him from loss. That was the moment he began to understand protection in a deeper way. Protection does not always feel comfortable. Sometimes it feels frustrating. Sometimes it feels like being held back. Sometimes it feels like being ignored. Sometimes it feels like the wrong timing. But later, when the danger becomes visible, the same moment becomes mercy. Daniel started to believe that God's covering over his life had been active in ways he never gave credit for. This changed how he prayed. Before, he asked only to be kept from harm in general terms. Now he prayed with more awareness. He asked God to protect him from what he could not see. He asked God to guard him from people and situations that looked good but were not good. He asked God to guide his steps when he himself could not tell the difference between opportunity and danger. He asked for wisdom, not only safety. He asked for discernment, not only comfort. He also began to see how protection shaped his character. The closed doors had taught him patience. The delays had taught him trust. The disappointments had taught him humility. The moments he thought he was forgotten had taught him to lean more deeply on God. In other words, the protection was not only saving him from danger outside, it was also saving him from becoming a person inside who could not handle truth, delay, or correction. That was important. Sometimes what we call protection is actually formation. God covers us not only by keeping danger away, but by shaping the person who will walk into the future. Daniel began to understand that his life had been preserved in more ways than he had noticed. Some storms never reached him. Some temptations lost their grip before they could destroy him. Some bad decisions were interrupted. Some paths never opened because he would not have survived them well. He was learning that the protection he sought had been covering him all along. This realization brought him peace, but not the kind of peace that made him passive. It made him more thankful and more careful. He stopped living as if every delay was a disaster. He stopped acting as if God had to explain everything immediately. He stopped demanding proof before trust. He began to live with a quieter heart. He still had questions, but he no longer needed every answer before he could rest. There were still times when he felt confused. Human beings do not change all at once. There were still days when he wondered if he had lost time or missed chances. But now he has a new habit. When disappointment came, he asked a better question. What is this protecting me from? That question did not remove the pain instantly, but it gave pain a different meaning. It moved him away from bitterness and toward trust. One evening, he sat alone on his porch as the sun went down. He watched the light fade across the street and thought about all the people he knew who were still angry at life because of things they did not receive. He wished he could hand them the peace he had slowly learned. He thought about how many hearts break because they cannot yet see the mercy hidden in the no. He understood them because he had lived there too. He knew what it felt like to call protection a loss. He knew what it felt like to thank God only for what came through and not for what was blocked. Now he saw it differently. He saw that his life had been spared in ways he could never fully count. He saw that some of the things he wanted would have taken him away from peace. He saw that some of the relationships he envied would have damaged his soul. He saw that some of the opportunities he thought he needed would have pulled him into deeper stress. He saw that some of the people he wanted to trust would have broken him. The fact that he did not know these things at the time did not make them less real. It only meant the protection was hidden. That is why hidden protection is so difficult for people to recognize. It does its work quietly. It prevents pain before pain becomes obvious. It closes paths before the poison enters. It delays movement before harm can catch up. It redirects the heart before it walks too far in the wrong direction. Because of that, many people only understand it later. Daniel was one of those people. His understanding came in stages. First, he saw disappointment. Then he saw mercy. Then he saw love. He began to speak differently about his story. He no longer said life had only been unfair to him. He still admitted the pain. He still told the truth about disappointment. But now he also told the truth about protection. He said that he had been saved from things he once wanted. He said that some losses were actually rescues. He said that some delays were mercy in disguise. He said that not everything that says no to you is your enemy. Sometimes the no is guarding your future. This became a message he shared with younger people who were frustrated with closed doors. He told them not to rush past the waiting. He told them not to hate every delay. He told them to ask whether God might be blocking what would harm them. He told them that the unseen hand of God often works through ordinary things, through timing, through interruption, through discomfort, through redirection, through peace that does not make sense until later. People listened because they could hear that he was speaking from experience, not theory. He was not pretending life had been perfect. He was saying that the things he once called setbacks had become evidence of care. That made his message strong. He also became more forgiving toward himself. For a long time, he had blamed himself for the way his life turned out in some seasons. He had thought maybe if he had worked harder or trusted better, things would have been different. But now he saw that not everything was about his performance. Some things had been blocked for his good. Some failures were actually interventions. Some endings were divine mercy. That understanding let him release a heavy weight he had carried for years. As he did this, he noticed a deeper peace growing in him. He slept better. He worried less. He reacted with more calm. He felt less like a man at the mercy of random events, and more like a man being guided by unseen care. He knew that life would still bring challenges, but he no longer believed he was walking without protection. He had too many memories now, too many close calls, too many moments where danger moved away without explanation, too many quiet rescues, too many hidden mercies. One of the strongest memories was from a night drive years earlier. He had almost gone out with friends, but at the last moment he felt too tired and stayed home. He had felt annoyed. He had thought he was being boring or weak. Later he learned there had been serious trouble on that road. The memory made him sit still and thank God. He had almost entered danger. The thing that looked like weakness had been wisdom. The body that stayed home had been covered. He realized that many times what felt like inconvenience was actually divine care. Another memory came from childhood. He had once begged his mother to let him go somewhere with older boys. She said no. He had resented it. He thought she was being strict. Later he learned those boys had gotten into dangerous trouble. That old no from his mother was really a shield. He thought about all the no's in his life now and stopped treating them like insults. Sometimes love says no because love sees what you cannot see. That was the central guidance hidden inside his story. The protection you sought was covering you all along. Not always in a way you recognized. Not always in a way that felt good at the time, but always in a way that mattered. Daniel's life became a quiet testimony of this truth. He was not someone famous. He did not perform miracles or speak on large stages. He simply lived long enough to see that God's cover had been present in the details. That made him calmer, kinder, and more grateful. He stopped living as though he had to force every door open. He understood that some doors are not meant for you. Some paths are blocked because they are unsafe. Some loss is not loss. It is a rescue. This did not make him careless. It made him wise. He still worked hard. He still prayed. He still made plans. But now he did so with trust instead of panic. He knew that if something was truly meant for him, God would carry him toward it safely. If something was not for him, then being kept from it was not a curse. It was mercy. He became thankful for the things that never happened. That was one of the biggest changes in him. He thanked God for the accident he missed. He thanked God for the job he did not take. He thanked God for the relationship that never formed. He thanked God for the business deal that never went through. He thanked God for the times he felt delayed and later discovered he had been protected. Gratitude changed his heart more than anything else. It made him stop fighting the past and start honoring the hand that had been over him all the time. Daniel's mother noticed the difference and smiled quietly when she saw it. She knew he had begun to understand what she had tried to tell him. Protection is often invisible until the danger becomes clear. She had lived long enough to know that God does not always answer with visible walls. Sometimes he answers with unseen covering. Sometimes he moves in silence. Sometimes he keeps a person from walking where their heart wants to go. This is why the story matters for anyone who feels disappointed by life. The delay may be a shield. The closed door may be a rescue. The missed opportunity may be a mercy. The no may be protection. The thing you were praying for may not have been safe for you. The thing you lost may have been the very thing that would have hurt you. You may not understand it yet, but later you may look back and realize that God had been covering you all along. Daniel learned to live with this awareness. He no longer saw himself as unlucky or forgotten. He saw himself as guided. He saw his life as a road with hidden hands on it. He saw that some things he begged for were not given because love was saying no for a reason. He saw that God's protection had been more active than he had ever understood. That gave him strength to keep moving. His story became a simple message of trust. Do not rush to judge what you do not yet understand. Do not call delay failure too quickly. Do not assume every closed door means abandonment. Sometimes the hand that blocks is the hand that saves. Sometimes the thing that feels missing is the thing that would have harmed you. Sometimes the path that seems blocked is blocked because you're being covered, not canceled. That is the guidance in Daniel's life. The protection you sought was covering you all along. It was there when you did not see it. It was there when you felt delayed. It was there when your plans changed. It was there when the answer was no. It was there in the silence. It was there in the missed chance. It was there in the detour. It was there in the pain you later realized you had been spared from. So keep trusting. Keep praying. Keep looking back with honest eyes. You may see that many things you called losses were really signs of care. And when you begin to see that, gratitude will rise where frustration once lived. Peace will settle where confusion once stayed. Faith will grow stronger because you will know this truth in a deeper way. The protection you sought was covering you all along.